Hello and welcome to Walford United WFC. Hello and welcome to Walford United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Got a couple of casualties tonight, so I hope Namrata and Allie gets well soon. And I hope John Nevile actually gets home safely as well. The weather conditions up there in Manchester is really bad at the moment, so hope you three get safe, all that kind of stuff. But we have got Andy and Andrew. Andy, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad. Obviously, it is cold up here, as you say, but I can't imagine it's too tropical in Starbridge. But you can always let me know.
It's not too bad. It's been raining. It's a bit nasty, but temperature-wise, I think we've got between about 4 and 7 today, so that's not too bad, not compared to you guys. John in the comments and Niall, nice to see you come into the chat, mate. And Andrew, how you doing, mate?
I'm all good. Happy it's the weekend now.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Working Monday to Friday, you've got your weekends. I've just had a couple of days off, so I'm back to it tomorrow. But yeah, we've got a few things to talk about today. Obviously, we'll start up talking a bit about like COVID in the sense of Man United should have had a game today, but tomorrow, Sunday. What day is it?
Sunday.
It's you confusing me with the weekends. That's what it is. Yeah, obviously United should have had a game this weekend, and so should Chelsea and others as well. But we'll get into that one as well. But we have got a few other topics, and some of them are scrolling along the bottom. But yeah, let's start it off right away with COVID. Andy, when you saw that thumbnail I sent you earlier, you felt passionately about it and wanted to jump straight in there. This conversation could go anyway, but if you want to start it off, and then we'll jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I mean, it's a sort of two elements to it, really. I mean, there's been a bit of chat based on an interview that I think the Arsenal manager gave earlier today, sort of posing the question of whether or not people have sort of used these postponements tactically. Now, I know that obviously a lot of the Prem managers have also said similar things, but it is a different kettle of fish for them. I do understand much bigger squads, for example. But I think obviously it's very disappointing to have the games called off. Our game called off, obviously, for Sunday, and I believe the Chelsea Tottenham, wasn't it, that would have been played basically now. Yeah. There's now been called off as well. I suppose the benefit of it would be we got a heck of a lot of notice. I think was it Wednesday we got told, so that's definitely what I know a lot of fans were calling for. I mean, we think we all saw over Christmas was it Burnley where they got called literally a couple of hours before kickoff? They got called off, and nobody really wants that. But I think sort of the things that I have to say about it, really, I think there's sort of two elements to it, really. Number one, about what sort of you guys' views, and I'll pick up my view as well on the idea of maybe just essentially someone needs to play, so maybe we could open up the academies a bit more and use the youth rather than just postpone it, because very, very quickly you're going to end up with a problem if the next 2 weeks, for example, people get games postponed. A lot of teams, we got ours off before Christmas, but a lot of teams who missed that one as well, very, very quickly you end up with a congestion around January, February anyway, where COVID's still going to be quite bad. So sort of maybe what do you think sort of should be the minimum criteria to get a game on? And then the second one was just a thought that I thought about sort of future-proofing it. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and trying to, think it's going to be a different outcome. And one of the things that I was thinking of is, I mean, you guys are the men's fans as much. Maybe Andy will be able to answer this. When did the Prem start this year? Was it first week of August? It was in August, wasn't it?
Yeah, first week of August. Yeah, so it was about the 7th or 8th of August, if I remember rightly.
And obviously we were I've got my fixture. We were the 3rd of September. Why? Like that's sort of the first question, because that's 4 weeks there that you could have, if you moved the fixtures slightly further, you're sort of moving more in a better weather window, a better COVID window, if you want a better word, in summer. Okay, and that's my solution element to what I'm saying, that might help, because if you started the season earlier, I did think about later as well, but I appreciate with the Euros and with things in summer anyway, that can be more difficult. But I can't see for the life of me, especially now the WSL is fully professional, why we can't start it in the beginning of August. which would give us essentially theoretically up to 4 games to then, if needed, have a weaker January, or or have more space in January. You could also say for other reasons, where if you wanted to grow the game, do other competitions, make the league bigger, it would give more space as well. But I'm just thinking from a COVID perspective. Or the other solution I could think of is obviously about getting rid of the winter break. But I appreciate that would be sort of against the grain, because all the other so I'm just reading the point there. That's a point. I'll read that. All the other leagues are talking about putting a winter break in, aren't they? So that would be against sort of the tide a little bit. And I'm just trying to think out the box. And obviously, summer was a lot less, wasn't it, in relation to COVID numbers? The weather was better. People were outside. Cases were lower. Then maybe we could make more benefit of that kind of weather rather than, just you know what I mean?
Yeah. So a couple of points there. Obviously, I'll just jump in on that one. My first thought on the reason why they would have been it earlier is because of kind of what Catherine said. It is quite stop-start at the moment. However, for COVID reasons, if we're in a very similar position, like in 6 months' time, when you've got to start planning ahead, then you're probably right there, Andy. It's like putting a contingency plan there together, isn't it? Knowing that January is going to be bad. If that's going to be a peak, then going forward, you need to do something about it. I know it's not that easy, but it is definitely some sort of idea. But the first point you made is something that I feel quite strongly about. Just because you got, like, say, 4 or 5 players off with COVID, and that is still a good amount of players. I appreciate that. But when you've got a squad of 23 who all tested negative, and you've got academies, then surely you've got to play. It's no different to any other work, in my opinion. If you've got a few teammates off sick, you've still got to open your store. It just means that you're going to have to struggle a little bit, or other people need to step up. And I don't know if Andrew, you could come in shortly on this point, but for me, it's your job to put it as a club is to put a game on, and as long as everything's safe and everyone's safe, then if you can field 11 players and as many subs as you can, then that should be absolutely fine. Andy, do you want to come back in on that one before Andrew kind of has his say?
Yeah, I just want to ask Catherine as well, if she's still in the comments. Apologies for my ignorance, but what is a German-style break? Like, what do they do in the Frau Bundesliga? Is it like a bigger winter break, or do they have like a break earlier in the season? I just don't know. So I'm just hoping that she could.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll come back.
She could explain it for me. And as I say, it does maybe link to other things where we could, look at expanding it. Having more more teams in the WSL. Obviously, you could maybe look at, I suppose there's always talk about Europa for the women, but again, that might be quite far ahead. But going back on what you're saying, I mean, it's one of those where it's like we're not asking people to get, we're not asking players to put themselves at risk. We're not asking players who aren't fit to play to be forced to play. But I think what sort of you're trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misinterpreting it, is essentially it is United versus West Ham this weekend, for example. Mm-hmm. So the balance, so they're the clubs, and essentially it's not like it has to be a certain level. It's like heavyweight fighter versus heavyweight fighter. It would be unfortunate if one team was full of very much kids and the other team was full strength. Then again, it would become an element of management again if your squad, and maybe people would go for a bigger squad, knowing that you're going to have more issues. But I'll just read the point that she made. They bet before Christmas to early mid-February because of the snow in some regions and quality of pitches. No, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I was going to say I feel like there's little transparency between the WSL and what their rules are. A bit like with the Premier League, no one quite knows how many players they've got to have available for a game to go on. Like with the Premier League, we believe it's like 13 or 14 players. So you've got 11 players on the pitch, and if you've got 2 goalkeepers and an outfield player, you can literally put the game on. So it's just that transparency. And I mean, like for example, the United game against Newcastle after Boxing Day, and then Newcastle had their next couple of games postponed because of COVID and injuries. But during that game against us, they had 2 players go down with injuries. I'm thinking, I feel like certain clubs are using injuries as a bit of an excuse. I'm not saying that's from the women's side, but it's just, and say health is important as well. But you could also argue with like some of the leagues now, they're thinking about what the Welsh side as well. We need to get these games on, and obviously you can't keep postponing games because it's going to stretch out the season. Obviously, we've got the Women's Euros, and then on the men's side, you've got the start of next season, and then we're straight into a World Cup. And I think it was the Arsenal manager that Andy was mentioning, giving that interview, saying games are being called off. The teams have been preparing all week, ready to play, and not getting a reason why it's being actually called off. Is it so many actual positive cases? I think I was reading somewhere that I don't know. I think it was Brighton. I think they've had a number of cases, but it's people close contacts have tested positive, but they could still play if they're being tested negative. It's just if they are vaccinated. I don't know what the stats are on from the WSL, how many players are vaccinated or not, but I'm presuming it might be quite high. I'm not too sure, but
it's just higher than the men's apparently, which is an interesting. The only ones that have come out that have said are fully vaccinated are Chelsea and Reading.
Yeah, and I think the Arsenal manager said inconsistent with the testing. I don't know what the situation with the WSL now. I know the Premier League have told clubs now you can drop the twice weekly PCR test and just go with lateral flows, and then I think up until the day before the match. So it just prevents, like you said, Andy, the Burnley game being called off a few hours before, and then fans getting there, and the away fans have travelled a long way and then gone, well, we've spent all our hard-earned money to get in. Now you're saying, well, we've got to turn back around to see nothing, which is a bit unfair. I don't know whether in that situation clubs would offer some sort of refund or say for the loss of travelling up there. But let's say there's so many different protocols the WSL have to implement. I just wish they'd come out and say, well, this is how many players we need, and also can they use the academy? I don't know with certain clubs whether they've got enough, how big their academies are, so whether they've got enough players to actually fill a match day fixture in the WSL. So I don't know, it's that balancing act between the health of the players, but also you want games to go on. I mean, I don't know whether I say the WSL have got a bit more leeway in rearranging the fixtures compared to the Premier League, because Premier League you've got other games like the FA Cup, the European games, but I know with I don't know whether with like our games that are being postponed, they're going to be like the West Ham one going to be rearranged to a midweek, or can it be filled in on a weekend where there's a weekend free where we're not playing? So I don't know. It's just striking the balancing act. So just don't want the season to be stretched out for the players, and then they've got a little rest for the Euros either.
Yeah, and it's going to get to a point as well. We don't know what's going to happen in March, April, May. We might think that there's plenty of time for these games to be played, but we don't know what's around the corner, do we? It might get worse and worse in some cases, and then something's going to happen.
I was going to say, and then injuries could be picked up because they're playing a lot more games in a short amount of time. So it's about managing the squad and rotating the players. And I know we've got a good amount of players in our squad and we can rotate, but then we get several injuries at once. It's like just going to, put us back a bit. And we hit some great form before the Christmas break, and we sort of won like the season before. We just had that same situation, and then we just sort of slipped out the Champions League spot and then could only finish fourth. Then so it's just keeping those players fit and getting that consistency in the form.
Yeah, but Catherine might know this as well. But I mean, there is a cap, isn't there, on the squad in the WSL? And I think the original idea behind it was about because the FA mandates to have a WSL license, you've got to be able to pay them to make sure that it was sustainable, that you weren't going to have teams fall within the WSL. So I think it is quite a small number. In my head, I've got like 22 or 19 or something silly like that. But I'm not sure what it would be. So maybe that's what's causing a lot of the issues as well. It's not as big as the Prem.
When I was looking at transfers, funnily enough, I was counting how many players in each kind of senior team, and 25. But I don't think we've got. I think we've got 23 if you don't include a couple of youngsters that have played. So I think we have got a slightly smaller squad than some of the top teams out there. But even so, obviously it's not us that's got the issue. But even so, 23 players, not including any of the devs, it's still enough to put a game on, isn't it? And some of the squads who have cancelled have obviously got a bigger squad than us. Natalie's in the comments along that. She says 25 players. Natalie just coming on screen, just want quite the irony there, because Natalie on Twitter today has been saying, well, Villa wanted a game on, we wanted a game on, let's get a bit of a friendly on the go, just to keep obviously the match fitness up. I don't know if fans would have been able to go to the games, but ideally they would. But yeah, just to these teams, as you said, Andrew, who has been preparing all week, they want a game. You know, is it too hard to kind of put a friendly together? And I'll start off with you on that one, because it's something that's going around Twitter, and it's an idea. I don't know how feasible the idea is, but a lot of people are obviously thinking about these kind of things. What would your thoughts kind of be on that one?
I mean,
kind of worms.
Yeah, I mean, I'm smiling because the answer I should give to stretch it out would be longer than this, but I think it's a non-starter. I think it's pointless. I think in reality, for about 5 different reasons, it wouldn't work. Because you prepare for a particular team. Why would you risk injuries? There's nothing at the end of it. So I don't think it would. It's a nice thing, and we are really, gutted that we're not there on Sunday. I mean, I remember obviously, against Aston Villa, I certainly thought that was us out of the stadiums for months. I thought we might be out for a couple of months. You look at what's happened in Wales with it being behind closed doors, in Scotland with the 500 or less rule, which is a bit random, depending on where. It doesn't matter which stadium it is, it's 500 people or less. So I thought we'd be out anyway. So I suppose in a way we should be thinking, well, thankfully we're still here. Thankfully we've still got Brum coming up next Saturday, and we've got obviously, I believe then, is it Arsenal in the Conti midweek and then Spurs?
Yeah.
Or was it Spurs and Arsenal?
Spurs first and then Arsenal midweek.
Right, so it'd be Brum, Spurs, and then Arsenal midweek, and obviously finish off with Bridgewater. We might get onto this as well, but I'm really pleased to see that. I think it's for last time I checked, based on what people were in the group, that there were nearly 1,000 tickets sold so far.
Just 500 or something, yeah.
And that's brilliant. That's fantastic. So it might be a little bit of that. I mean, I would say maybe with Sky involved, maybe with BBC bringing up their game a little bit. Maybe there is scope to try and move away from a Sunday as well. I might regret this because it's easier for us than the work Monday to Friday. But you know what I mean? Because especially when that final Sky Sports slot is deliberately at a weird time, because it's after the final Super Sunday game, isn't it, when the men play?
Yeah.
Which does kind of have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, because Sky Sports are basically going, oh, we'll fit you in there. This is the show, and we'll fit you in there, So maybe there might be a bit of scope to start moving dates around a little bit. I don't mean just for COVID, just, because obviously in the NFL, you've got Monday Night Football. It's become quite prestigious. I know they thought about Friday nights to play with it in the Prem a little bit, haven't they, as well? They did it with us in Reading. They want to do it again. Maybe we could make a sort of different night of the week a little bit for some of the games, as a box office. But then certain other fan bases won't fill the stadiums when they do that. So it is an interesting one.
I think on that one, and I'll bring Andrew in shortly, I just think that I would like to see that. I think that will probably happen when more cup games are on TV, and also when the league eventually does expand. I think they have to start doing that. I was speaking to Maisie on yesterday's show. She was saying she would like to see more games on TV. But I think there needs to actually be more games as well for that to kind of happen realistically. So, Andrew, I just want to bring you in on that debate about any of the clubs who have had their games cancelled. Would you kind of like to see some friendlies happen just to kind of keep up some matches going ahead?
I can sort of see Andy's point, where is it a good idea to have friendlies because it could pick up injuries, but then on the other hand, we still want to be playing games, keeping that, our levels up, so we can, so some of those players that are not had much like game time can get some of that in the friendly, and also build up their form too, because we want every player to be on form when Mark Skinner does put them into the side. Cause like Nat was saying about having 25 players, you sort of want a player for every single position. So say if Honor was out, then Martha Harris could come in, but I know Martha's, I don't know whether she's back from her injury yet. I know she was injured before the Christmas break, but we'll just say you want all those players to be ready for each position. So, and like you said about more games being on TV, that's what I would like to see, like with the Conti Cup. I mean, our last one against Everton, everybody thought it wasn't going to be put on TV at all, not even MU TV. And then I think it was the day before MU TV said, Man United said, "Oh, yeah, we're going to put it on for you." So it would be nice if Sky or maybe even the BBC say, "Oh, yeah, we're going to." Even if it's one tie from each group game or each round, just and at least then each club gets their time in front of the TV, and then just builds up more interest in in those clubs as well.
Robert in the comments says that Devon's his home, so they'll be able to travel to see the game at Bridgewater. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's about 2 hours from our house, Andrew. I say our house. We live quite close to each other. So
yeah, there's a stick on
just 10 minutes.
They don't actually live together, so that's the
yeah.
Yeah, let me say. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but we'll move on. And I want to talk a little bit about something that Benny mentioned on the show yesterday, very briefly. It was just a comment. So I just thought, well, we'll expand on this because I think he's absolutely right just to kind of mention it. The game at Old Trafford's only about 10 weeks away, and we've hardly heard any kind of promotion for it. I think there's 33,000 at the Etihad on the first game of our second season. Obviously, we'd love to top that. It's going to be very hard to top it, but the reason why it's going to be hard to top it is because we haven't really done much about it just yet. I think we announced it like before Christmas. I think, the socials was good, but everyone's kind of forgot about it now. Unless if you're an actual women's football fan, we're really looking forward to it. But we just haven't heard much about it, have we? Just kind of your thoughts. You can take this conversation any way you want, but surely to get more than 40,000 fans in there, we need to start doing something special about it now and start advertising it. Andy, what would your approach be on this? Would you wait a little bit longer and just do it all last minute, or would you start building it up now and start adding the excitement?
No, yeah, we need to. I mean, there's sort of multiple elements to this. I think a little bit. I mean, if you look at, again, I don't really follow the men's, but you can't not follow a lot of the stuff going on with the men's squad at the minute, saying that up to 11 players, 17. I read somewhere wanting to leave and that kind of stuff. But I think the problem is that the fan base, the men's side of the fan base, which is a bigger side of the fan base, is rattled. And sometimes, if Man United did the sky is blue tweet from the men's account, they'd get boo. It would literally just be. So I think that's going to be one of the issues that we've got. And I remember, obviously, the game earlier in the season against for the women against Spurs, where there was a massive reaction at the poor performance, and it was a poor performance. And there was a lot of including myself, really, a lot of sort of stuff thrown at Skinner's end. But I remember, I think it was Connor or someone else mentioned to me that there was a lot of pent-up anger for a manager anyway because of what was going on with Ollie at the time. So the whole fan base itself was a bit. So maybe it's something to do with that. I mean, you would hope that. They started doing those little like Quan Mata did it, and a few others where the whole good luck girls to this, that, and the other, and they started to do a bit more of that. I think to be honest, they could really do with. Making it clear. I don't know if it is case, but obviously, Man United season ticket holders should get it free. The men's season ticket holders to get it free to bring them in as well a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And I think you would expect more content, more cross content. The obvious one that's screaming from the rooftops is every time Ella Toon gets interviewed, she mentions how much she loves Cristiano Ronaldo. Guess where Cristiano Ronaldo plays at the moment? Most people will watch Cristiano Ronaldo have his breakfast, even if you're not interested in football. So you could easily do, like, if either on Twitter or on MUTV, Ella meets Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Mention the game. It'd be great for her as a person anyway, because she loved, obviously, it was her idol. So not only do you solve that problem and make you one of our, probably the best player we've got even happier, but you can also market the Old Trafford game and do content. So I suppose what I'm saying is it would have to be slow and steady, but I do see the problem because of obviously the unrest with the male squad at the moment.
I think that's a good point. Are they just waiting for the right time? You can guarantee if a post went out, I suppose you get this at any point, but if a post went out now, people would say sign Blackstenius. If a post went out now, they'll be like, say, "Oh, get a men's player out" or something. They would all
Lasers out as well.
Ignore, they would kind of ignore the actual tweets that it's about, and they'll start making a negative of something or start talking about whatever they want to talk about. But I do think it needs to be in people's heads. We do need to start planting the seed, especially if the men's team fans who want to go to Old Trafford, they might have other plans there. They might think, okay, so I've got this weekend off, I'll plan to do something else. However, if this is actually like in their eyesight now, then they can actually start planning to actually go to that game as well. So for me, I'd start building up now. And obviously we've got MUTV, we've got match day programs, we've got advertising boards. There's plenty of things, as you said, I'd do one step further, start creating content for it. There's plenty of things. If we was running that, I
don't want Ella to meet Cristiano Ronaldo anyway. I mean, you know, every interview she says, you can see the love coming off the page. Like, why hasn't it happened, for God's sake?
Number seven as well. You know, two number sevens. There's so many things you can spin on it.
Well, they do have that thing, don't they, as well, of United prefer to do their own media content for MUTV. Because, as you say, you would expect them, you know, maybe on the radio, BBC, you know, BBC Sky, you know, I think it'll happen close to the game. They'll start making more and more noise about it. And yeah, every time the men play, every time the women play, it should be mentioned, Old Trafford game in this date. But as I say, hopefully, and this is my first thought in December, that hopefully it was just an element of, I was convinced, if you maybe put money on it, I would have lost money because was convinced we were going to be locked out January, February. So it might be just something as simple as, well, we'll see what COVID is. We'll see what COVID is doing.
Yeah, but still advertise it though. That's the thing. It might be too late. We just don't know, do we? What's around the corner? So at least kind of put it out there. And I think the only time I've heard of it, sorry Andy, just for cutting you up there, but
no, that's fine.
The only time I've actually heard it is actually inside Leeds Sports Village to fans who already know that the game's going to be at Old Trafford. They're women's football fans. They're looking forward to it. They already know. It's making other people aware. You know, the 2,000 fans at LSV already know. That's not an issue. It's the other 38,000 fans who aren't used to going to women's football games. They're the ones that need to be aware. But Andy, if you just want to come back in, sorry, Andy.
No, I'm interested in Andrew's comments because I know you go see the men's more, so it's more of because you'll know more the people I'm talking about. It's just this group for me. It's the men. I don't really, apart from you and Connor, I don't really know. You know, I can't really put many sort of personalities to the name. I mean, the other thing, obviously, the other option is, and I'm kind of half against this a little bit, but is doing what the A-League do and having the women playing after the men's. I know they sometimes do it before, but I think before wouldn't work because of the whole people kind of sneak in and stay in at Old Trafford to watch the men's. Whether or not that would be a solution as well to try and get more in, but I don't like that because I think it's so disrespectful for the women players when they're giving their all and people are like bored waiting for the men's game to start or whatever. In some cases, and not focusing. I think it's disheartening to see people come in as you're finishing. But that's just another solution, I suppose.
I agree. It's like you're doing it just for the sake of the numbers, then, aren't you? You're not doing it for the right reasons. You're just doing it. Oh, this is an easy option. This will keep a few people here. It would work. You would keep some numbers there, but I think it would be kind of the wrong way of doing it. But Andrew, what's your thoughts on this one?
I was going to say, you're saying about more announcement on the game. I know Alan Key, he announces at least he does the men's side, and he's like before the game and during half time, he will mention like all the upcoming fixtures for the men's, and also has mentioned about the women's game at Old Trafford. It's just how many of those people are listening and saying, "Oh yeah, I'll come to that women's game in March." So it is being like announced inside the stadium, but in terms of, I think I've only seen like a few posts across social media so far. But like Andy said, you could do more cross promotion. Like for example, like Mary Oakes and David De Gea. I know she said in her Sky Sports interview she's been exchanging messages with him, so you could do some cross content that way. But I know it's very difficult to do it like together because they're in their own bubbles. You sort of, you know, they want to keep them like separate at the moment with all COVID and everything. So it's a bit more difficult. But I'm sure the United social media team can figure a way of like bringing them the women's side and the men's side, even if it's just socially distanced. They can come up with some great content.
Zoom, but what we're doing, we're using a different thing. But what we use, for God's sake, it doesn't have to necessarily be. Yeah,
physically there. Well, physically in the same room together. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd just like to see United, well, on the men's side, and they said to me, just promote it a bit more. I'd say, like you say, it'll get ramped up more. I'd say towards from the beginning of March, and then depending on whether it's Sky or BBC want the game, then
It's got to be Sky, hasn't it? It's got to be Sky. I mean, You can't imagine it's got to go to BBC Two after the lunchtime. You know what I mean? It's got to be Sky with all the bells and whistle cameras. It's got to be, hasn't it?
I don't know, because I thought, well, the Manchester derby that was on BBC, and I was thinking, I'm surprised Sky didn't want that, because like with the men's side, they want Manchester derby on Sky. They won't let BT. Well, I don't know whether women's TV rights still works, but the Premier League one, Sky have got the first picks on the big games, and then
same with this one apparently.
And I don't know whether WSL will do the same, where Sky or has the right to pick the first, on the games, or it's just shared equally. So I'm not sure on that. So, but yeah, I'd like to see more promotion for the women's games, just getting more fans inside the Elite Sports Village. Because
what I would say is, if there isn't enough people that turn up, what I do want to make sure that doesn't happen, and I'll be fighting my own rearguard action here. Yeah, I can just see it now. Oh, shows nobody likes women's football. And that's from the sort of, make me a sandwich brigade on certain elements of the men's team. But also, you'll have some of the more established, not fans of women's football generally going, oh, shows we're running before we can walk and that kind of thing. And I just think people do need to remember the variables involved this season and all this kind of thing. And I think if we do get 20, 30,000, then that would be an amazing achievement, even though on paper in a 77,000 stadium, it's going to look a bit empty. And I think if we do it again next year, which hopefully you've seen the plan would be one game a year, then you should hopefully see that progression. I mean, I know with the NFL that people watch, apparently the first London game, it was hilarious. They were cheering at the wrong time. People didn't even know what they were watching. Now you've got some English fans of the NFL team that know more than the Americans do. So hopefully we'll see some sort of element of bringing more and more people across, because obviously of the type of atmosphere we provide as well, with the way we do things compared to other teams in the women's game.
I was going to say, and those fans that do go to the Old Trafford, try and get them to come over to LSV, and then hopefully we can start to fill up that more, especially the stand where all the flags are put in, so we can start opening that side up as well. Because that's
I've got an idea, actually. This is interesting, like one of those focus groups live, isn't it? I've got an idea. Obviously I appreciate that United's home games are always oversubscribed, and even to get access, I believe you need a membership, don't you, that you pay for.
Yes,
at various points, and probably a certain blood type and the various things that's been like to get in. But I think one of the easy things they could do as a one and done would be, if you've gone for the women's game, maybe you get a priority window or something that you wouldn't normally get for the next men's game, in the sense of it will let you have a chance of getting other tickets. I'm not saying I prefer the women's game. I'm not saying that's better at all. I'm just trying to think about number. And that, I think, would fill it very quickly. If they did some sort of, if you did this, you get this.
There's got to be a way to link them all together, hasn't there?
Yeah. Sort of do it with the men's side, but it's sort of like if you're trying to register for a season ticket at the men's game, so you can go on a priority list, you've got to pay so much of a deposit, because that's what I did a few years ago, about put £100 down, saying, so when any tickets become available, season tickets, they'd ring me first and say, oh, we've got some season tickets available, do you want one? So I don't know whether something similar to that would work. I'm not too sure.
We've spoken about COVID, we've spoken about Old Trafford. Andrew, what's your topic, mate?
It was United and the upcoming Euros. So which United players we expect to see in the Euros? Obviously, I'm expecting to see Ella Toone, Alessia Russo and Mary Oates make the Euro squad. It's just which other United players we think are going to make the Euro.
A few in the Euros, because we've got other players that will be playing.
I'll say other countries too as well. United players are going to as well. But say specifically on the Lionesses, I'm saying those three players I expect to see in there. But I think one player I think might stake a claim is Eva Mannion. I think she's been the most consistent performer for us this season. I mean, coming back from a serious ACL injury, and she's featured in every game under Mark Skinner so far this season. I mean, looking at her stats, I mean, she's like fifth with the most passes attempted, and also fourth with the most passes completed, and also she's not yet to been booked in the WSL, so I feel like she's found a stride at the moment. So I'm just thinking, is she in the England manager's eye, and whether she might consider her to be a choice. I don't know whether she'd be like, she gets in the England squad, would she be the first choice centre back? I'm not too sure, but I don't know whether you think Mannion can make a claim to for the England squad, and also any other particular United players might make their own claim as well.
Do you want to make a start on that one, Andy?
I mean, she could, but the more I've looked into it and I've tried to find out more about the international squads, I think if you're not in the squad, if you're not in the there and thereabouts by the turn of the year, which is now, I suppose, unless there's a massive injury crisis in your position, you're probably not going to get in. That's the only issue, because obviously that's the whole point. Maybe with the Arnold Clark Cup that's coming out in February, which is against very, very good teams. Maybe that would be the time to try your Aoife Mannion's. Hannah Blundell is another one that people have mentioned, and maybe give more game time to you can have squad players in the Lionesses, but maybe not your sort of first 11 that you'd imagine. Nail down who's going to be your number one for the Euros as well, because obviously England are playing Spain. That's obviously one that I've got my eye on in Carrow Road on the 20th of February. I believe the other teams involved are Germany and Canada. I think that's it, isn't it?
I think so.
They're not poor teams. That's going to be a big test. So yeah, you could stretch that and say you could give people a chance, call people up they wouldn't necessarily expect to see, because they seem to have done that in the past. But like always, they've always done it for City players or City Academy. I mean, to be honest, the England manager has more. Well, not this one because it's new, but the England setup has more love of the academy than Gareth Taylor does, of the City Academy than Gareth Taylor does, to be honest, because they've always had the options. And Canada, obviously, they won the gold medal, didn't they, in the Olympics this year for the women, I believe. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a great tournament. Yeah. So maybe you could test people out on that in that stage with Carrow Road, Molineux, and Stadium, Riverside Stadium, isn't it? The three stadiums.
Yeah. I need to check that Molineux one out, actually, Andrew. I don't know if you've looked at the date yet, but I need to write that down because that's definitely one that we could potentially go to.
I remember seeing it was like we're going to be playing at Molineux. I was thinking, just trying to remember the date now. I was like, I thought that could be one to go to.
Yeah, 20 minutes down the road from us. I think when I start looking at picking like an international team, I always go on league form. I think it doesn't really matter what you do for your country 3 or 4 months ago. I think that's completely out the window. So for me, to pick City players at the moment who aren't necessarily playing great, I don't think they should just be an automatic. The chances are they probably will get in there, but I just don't think it should be a given. So when you look at the players like that you just mentioned there, Blundell and Mannion, I definitely think that they should be at least in contention and not just immediately overlooked. We spoke about Tooney. I think obviously that's certain, but I just want to throw a question out there for Andrew. I mean, would you actually look at starting Tooney, because you started quite a few games in some of the so-called easier matches? So I guess it's not as important against those matches, but she has started a lot. I think the formation's been something like 4-1-4-1, that kind of thing. So it's allowed her and Kirby to play at the same time. But could you see Tooney now actually not only getting into the England squad all the time, but even maybe the starting 11?
I'd say definitely. I think Ella's going to be like, I think if she carries on the way she is across the next second half of the season in great form, I just think she could be one of the stars of the Euros. And I mean, it's just sitting behind like Kirby, if she's going to be the chosen forward striker, then I just think she could have a great Euros and bag a few goals for herself and look good for United as well. I mean, United player scoring the winning goal in the Euros to help England win the tournament. So I say, Plus also I think Russo as well. I think she could play alongside Tooney as well. I just think because Russo scored a hat-trick in the last game. So I just think them two together, if they were in the side together, they combine really well. So it'd be interesting to see them two line up together in the England squad as well. And also, I don't know whether Katie Zellum, I don't know whether she's going to make it or not. I know she's been in the squads and she's only had I think the last game she only had about 20 minutes, was it? So I don't know whether the England manager's seen enough to say, well, you'll be in my squad and you'll just be called upon when
But what I would
needed.
say on that one, though, so what I would say on that one is she's got called up even when she was almost out of form. The last 3 games where she's actually played even better. So you never know. That's last 3 games she's actually played probably the best she played all season. So potentially, that will go into her favour as well. Sorry, Andrew, go on.
I was going to say, and I think one more, but I don't know, it might just be a bit too late for him. I was thinking Millie Turner. I was thinking, I know she's only just come back, but maybe she has a good run of form in the second half of the season. She might just get into the squad, but it might be just a bit of a big push. I know she has played for the England under 19s and under 23s, but she's not got into the senior squad yet. So it just, might be a bit of a push too far, but I'd like to see as many United players in the England squad, and plus the other countries that our players play for as well.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on them names, Andy? And I'll also throw in a question about Mary Earps. Surely got to continue starting in the start 11. She hasn't conceded a goal in about 4 or 5 games, has she?
Yeah, I mean, Mary Earps is England's number 1. I mean, I'm a big fan of Mary. I'm very biased in that respect, but I've read the article that she did for the Lionesses actually just before Christmas, and apparently she was very close to walking away from the game and retiring, which I was absolutely shocked by. I wouldn't have believed it unless I read the actual article. When she was dropped by England, she does have a degree in business management, and she has to have one eye on the future. But she's only 28, and she's playing, I think, some of the best football that she's ever played at the moment, and she's England's number 1. Obviously, Ellie Roebuck seems to be the sort of the remnants of what happened last time, which is, she's being spoke about again. And again, she's not back for City yet. I know she's there and thereabouts, apparently. They're coming back, but she's not back for City yet. So especially in a goalkeeper position, you would obviously take her, but I wouldn't necessarily say that you would end up nerfing Mary off her number 1 position at the minute. One of the things I do like about the current England manager, the New England manager, is that she still seems to believe a bit more about form. And she does, and you just got to look at the game against Latvia. She does believe in keeping your foot to the floor, to the end of the game. None of this sort of, tight, well, a little bit of skidder ball if I want it. None of this sort of slow, we'll just see what happens. It's bang, bang, bang. And if you start winning and start getting ahead 2, 3, 4, start building the goal difference, which obviously is something that we don't really do at United at the moment, which I think we need to do. Because we could get caught out later in the season, depending on how close the pack is. But yeah, no, I think Kate. I mean, the other name you mentioned was Katie Zellum. I mean, to be honest, I'm a bit of a New Year resolution here. I'm not really gonna go in on that. All I can just say is that I clearly just don't see what Mark sees. And I suppose the way she would get in the England squad is whether or not Mark takes off the glasses that he sees and passes them to the England manager to view the same thing through those glasses. I mean, she's clearly, obviously, doing something that gets her in the conversation. But I do think there are better midfielders, and I wouldn't necessarily take her.
Would you consider Lucy Staniforth to be one of those better midfielders who could potentially get into the England squad? Because I think she's had more minutes than Katie for the Lionesses recently.
Yeah, I mean, previously I've been quite not critical of Lucy Stan, but I kind of missed what the deal was. Sometimes she's one of those players that goes under the radars in the engine room of the team, and you don't really see the yards that she does. But she's got that physicality similar to Hayley Ladd, who's obviously Welsh. She wouldn't be in there, but you know what I mean. She does score, and she does give an option of that sort of physicality. And against certain teams, you are going to have to be as physical as you can. So yeah, I would.
Andy, what's your topic, mate?
Andy, all right? I'm thinking back to you now, aren't you?
I'll go through one. I'll go through one that's on screen. Transfers. The fact that we haven't seen any, haven't heard any. We've had Emma Sanders on the show. We've had some very knowledgeable Twitter accounts who aren't journalists, but they know bits and bobs of all different countries.
I include me in this, isn't it? It's an oxymoron. Knowledgeable Twitter accounts. Let's be honest. People that know enough to have a decent guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's accounts out there that know exactly when contracts are going to expire around Europe, and that we ourselves on this channel, we're very fortunate that we speak to journalists all over Europe at least, and a few in other areas of the world as well. And there's just nothing.
Catherine's in the comments, so we speak to a Canadian.
Yeah, Catherine,
Canadian.
But do you think something is happening, and like a bit like you said earlier, Andy, about just waiting for the right time, or do you think things have been done and it's just about just announcing things, or because I don't know who those players could potentially be, because we saw today Blackstenius being linked with Arsenal. We know she was linked with Arsenal a very long time ago, a good few weeks ago now, so that's no surprise. But the fact that it's come out again now, it's not looking healthy, is it, Andy?
Maybe this is the thing about the call off. Maybe Skinner's on like a Ryanair flight as we speak to Stockholm to have a little chat to.
It's funny you should say this, because I was speaking to Karen, and Karen, if you're watching, literally I was speaking to Karen just before we went live on WhatsApp, and she was saying, "Come on, where's all these transfers?" As Skinner's kind of says, we're going to be excited, and I was about to reply back to her. Skinner's not the one that's going to go to Sweden. It's all the other people. They're letting him down. But and then you started that same conversation. But where's it going wrong? Surely Mark wants the players. We know that as fans we need players. What's going on, Andy?
I mean, the problem we've got at the minute, and as I think Nat mentioned previously on one of the tweets today, is if we're not careful, we're going to end up as a stepping stone club, and that's not going to happen from a United fan perspective. We've shown Mark what we do, and we're not happy. So it's not going to happen. But seriously, that could be one of the things that could happen. Jackie, I think, was the first signing that we did that gave people the belief, okay, we're going to get some of the top players. We've actually also got the top players by creating them, with Ella bringing her through, and Leah from out of football to where she is now. But I think this hopefully will be it. This will be the transfer time that we'll talk about. Do you remember the winter transfer period of 2021, 2022? Because if we do get a big name, then hopefully it then becomes a place that big names can consider, if you see what I mean. And I think half of it is psychological. It's one of those will they go to United? Well, if someone started going to United, like if Blackstenius came to United, the first thing I would say clearly is that we've got the Euros coming up. She's going to play every game. She's going to have multiple eyes on her. She's going to look brilliant. She's going to get some sort of endorsements and sponsorship. She's going to be adored. There's all these positives, really. She goes to Arsenal. She goes to Chelsea. She could be on and off the bench. She could, she's not going to have that exposure. So if you want to make yourself look like you're in a Pepsi advert, you want to show yourself as the best striker in the world, you want to be playing. And that's the main thing that we can offer, at least in the short term. So hopefully we can get Blackstenius. If we don't, we need a striker. Please, Mark. I've been saying it since August. I think we're going to struggle if we don't get a striker. And if we get rid of Russo, then I can't say on here what I'd say, to be honest. That would be not shoot yourself in the foot, that's shoot yourself in the head if you let Alicia Russo go anywhere apart from the office to sign a longer contract. The what we've got. But I think, we've got to get a striker. I mean, the problem is, as United fans, we do hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Yeah. And hopefully somewhere we're going to be in the middle. I would hope we need a striker, a proven striker. I hope we're going to get one, whether it be as an American or one for obviously or a Blackstenius. What I don't want is, I'm just thinking of that. I don't want to get politics at this. It really will cause our numbers to go up. There's that famous meme that goes around, isn't there? Brexit belief is like a Bentley. Brexit reality is like a dog and a freewheel car. Like I do wonder. If Skinner turns around and goes, "Here's so and so. She's a great scorer in the championship." Where's not he's the person to watch?
I was going to ask you this, Andy. I was going to stick with you and say the same thing. If we can't get a real good signing, would you rather have nobody? Because you know what our fan base is like. If we just pull up with like a 5 or 6 out of 10 kind of player, then potentially she could be great in the future. You just know that our fans just aren't going to be happy, and not our fans as a whole. But there's going to be tweets out there. There's going to be unrest. There's going to be saying, "Oh, is this the kind of player that Skinner wants?" Potentially, we can't get this player that Skinner wants. We don't know who he wants just yet, anyway. But I am kind of worried that could happen, Andy, that We'll just get one just to tie us over in January. It might be a great signing for the future. It might be, but I am worried that it won't be enough for the fans.
Well, it depends on what the future is, to be honest. I mean, there's a fantastic sign. There is. I mean, I'm going to contradict myself now. There's a fantastic signing knocking around the championship. Her name's Lucy Watson. But again, we've got a lot of brilliant youth players that will develop anyway, and she is a long-term project. So it definitely wouldn't be a bad idea to get Lucy Watson. She's brilliant. I'd love to nick her from Sheffield quite happily. And I would hope, maybe just thinking about more of the practical reasons, some people might have quarantine. Maybe some of the deals have been done and these people are locked up in a hotel somewhere. Maybe it's one of those situations where, depending on what Skinner believes, and know he has various philosophies going around, he might be one of those who wants January's quite busy, so maybe he does want them in towards the end of January to gel with the squad a bit more before he has to play them in multiple different games against multiple different teams. But obviously, the reason why you get players to play them. So it depends on how allergic he is to the idea of what Casey had. Didn't matter what, if the world was falling down, nobody would come in January. I mean, we maybe had one, I can't remember, possibly, but she had a big thing about you start your squad in September, you ride or die all the way through to May, and there's a logic to that. You join, you bond, you develop the players because of that. But I always felt that we were literally losing out on, a big tool, which is January. So hopefully Skinner will play them. But I do think maybe if they're going to come in, and it'll be good for us because I'll be intolerable for the next few weeks until the end. It's going to be at the end of the window or towards the end of the window rather than now.
I was going to say, just to pick on Andy's point, I'm just thinking, like all United fans, even across the men's, we're hoping for the best and preparing for the worst at the moment. So I'm just thinking on terms of transfers. I always think January transfer is notoriously difficult to get players in as well. I'd say. I'm just remembering back a couple of seasons ago, like with the men's side and Bruno Fernandes, we all thought, let's start the transfer window. We'll get this sorted. It'll be in. And then it was dragging on and on and on. It was like, is he actually even going to get in? And then it was like it was the last day of the transfer window that we got him in. So I just feel like it always seems to be a bit quiet for a few weeks in the January, and then it all seems to be like a mad rush at the end. So I don't know if that'll be the case with the WSL as well. I know I've seen a few clubs have been signing a few players. I've seen a few of the announcements, like Liverpool have signed, and is it a forward or striker? They've just bought in. Striker, yeah. So we just seem to be a bit quiet. I know Mark's going to have said before the Christmas break, he was mentioning about the transfer and said, well, we're looking to bring in the right players who will fit in with us and give those performances. And he's sort of hinting at he's got at least his eye on two players. So whether that one's Stina or he's looking more at the National Women's Soccer League in the US, because obviously he was out there with Orlando Pride, whether he's been scouting some of the players over there and he's got a couple of players in mind. It's whether, because I know they're between their seasons at the moment, so whether some of their players over in the US would come over until the end of the season and then go back, or whether actually come over and transfer over in or not. It's just because as Skinner said, he understands the American market, so it's where I'd say he would put his focus in. But I think he said, I'll cast my net far and wide, so it'd be interesting to see who. I'd say we definitely need a striker. I'd say I'm a bit concerned over Martha Thomas and her record. I'm just saying because she's had a few injuries. I mean, it's like I was watching. Was it last week? The BBC Three documentary Squad Goals when she was at West Ham and she had picked up a few injuries there. I was like, I don't want. I'd rather she wasn't getting the injuries and she was scoring the goals for us. I'm just a bit concerned by that record, but I think if we can get like a forward in, hopefully it might be Stina, and then we can say because we need that squad depth, and I think that's going to be key for the second half of the season if we want to chase down that fourth spot and maybe even third. Well, high as possible as we can get in the season.
And obviously we're still in 2 cups, so
and 2 cups as well.
Hopefully, I mean, I'm unfortunately the only game hopefully I'm going to miss this season is the Conti away game, and I really hope I get a chance to go to the semi. Just looking at Catherine's comment there, Mary Fowler's another name I've heard of, people that know a lot more than I do on women's football. So I think she would be a great one. And obviously, 18 years old again, maybe you could say again a bit early, but obviously if she plays for Montpellier, Aussie international, again, it could be maybe the kind of quality under the radar signing that we need to get if we can't grab a top shelf player on, everyone's aware of, like Blackstenius. But no, that's one thing I've heard of. Also heard of, I'm not going to try and pronounce the name, but I think if I mention it, hopefully that might be an option. There's a player for Orlando Pride that's over 6 foot tall, and she's an outfield player. So that in itself just makes me smile. I think that would be a fantastic thing. That's something that I've seen on Twitter as a possibility. Again, apparently extremely physical player. So friend of the show, Stu Woolley, will love that. Very, very physical. There you go. Go on, John. Do you want it? There's Catherine's gone. Do you want to go over the surname? I'll do the first one. Taylor
K. We've seen these names going around Twitter. I would, on this, I would much rather go for a player who I've never heard of or who isn't a Galactico signing. If it's Skinner's signing, who he thinks can fit in with his system.
She's in Orlando. She was at Orlando.
Yeah. Well, we heard this rumor a few weeks ago, and I would like to see that because then you can blame Skinner if this player doesn't settle, if this player doesn't play well, then it's on Skinner's head. Whereas if you just sign
Carniac, there you go, Taylor Carniac, is that it?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, looking at it.
No, she's done the pronunciation below.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I would much rather see Skinner just think outside the box and bring in players that potentially we're not asking for. I don't mind that, but then obviously it's on his head. If he goes,
it's all on his head anyway. Let's be honest. It's all on his head anyway.
But it's an important January for me, and I will be disappointed if we don't get anyone because of the summer that we had. We didn't maximise the summer transfer window because we never even had a manager, up until late. So, surely there's something there in the summer where Skinner kind of had to agree that, okay, we're not going to get any of my signings, but please let me get something in January. Give me 4 months to have a look at the squad and then let me do something then. Surely you can't wait 12 months before making a signing because, it's not his team, is it? He's starting from scratch, trying to do a different philosophy with different players that he might not even wanted to see at the squad. Do you just want to finish the show, Andy?
Well, I'm just saying the issue with that as well, thinking about it, I know these things get done in reality a lot earlier than when we see them. But the Euros goes on in July, and it's a home Euros. It could be quite the middle of August before we start getting signings on our side as well, even in summer. So, it is going to be an awkward one. I agree with you. I think that, he has to bring somebody in. Maybe you could say that previously in the past why Casey and others have avoided the January transfer window is that you kind of said it's not working because you could argue someone that you brought in January, you should have found in summer. But with the women's game, because of some of the strong leagues finish at different times of the year, you've got that inbuilt excuse. The NWSL is in their off season at the minute. I believe the Scandinavian League is as well. I think they follow the summer sort of cycle. So you've got that cover, because then, but then of course you'd look at another way. When you go shopping in July, the Scandinavian league's already in play, as is the NWSL. So then it becomes harder for those players to move over. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was lovely today seeing Villa Bellorisa do the admin takeover. I think that was brilliant. It obviously meant that the admin could just go home and not worry about us knocking on their sort of Twitter door for a while. But one of the things I'd just say, maybe I should say to finish the show, I've just noticed here on Twitter, and I think this is, again, fantastic. Bridgewater United have just announced that more than 1,000 tickets have been sold in less than 24 hours.
Brilliant.
Which is brilliant and is life-changing, I think, for Bridgewater. I mean, it's a tenner a ticket. I know certain aspects of people have moaned about that. Well, there's an old chant, I think, that maybe more of a men fan involves sitting down and shutting up comes to mind, because I think you think about that, especially for that part of the country. If you're local to Bridgewater, you get to watch multiple Lionesses, top WSL talent, and a cup tie, and hopefully not, because we're United fans, and the possibility of something that essentially they'd make a film out of if they did beat us, which hopefully they won't. You know, and you know, it's kind of that, and then from our point of view, it's going to be a great away. It's going to be a great away option.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great away. Going to be a great cup game, and I just think you need to support the women's game. And you know, most of the time when I go to a local KFC, it sort of comes in at about £8. So if you moan about a tenner to watch top level women's talent, you don't know what you're talking about personally. So I would say we need to definitely, you know, I've been promoting those tickets on Twitter, and I think that you know, it is one of those where, you know, if we can sell that out, apparently their capacity is 2,500. So it might slow down a bit now, but hopefully we can get a high number. It'll look great. Hopefully BBC will cover it. That'd be a great occasion as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one final point. It's not just on transfer. I think the next couple of months, I think contract renewals for the players, retaining players for next season. I'm just thinking, I know the likes of Russo contracts up at the end of the season, but there is an option to extend. But I'm just thinking, I think that's one of the key areas is the contract rules. I want to see who we're going to be keeping on for next season. Certain players I want to see stay. So I know transfer is important, but we need to keep a core of players together so they can go into, well, the second half of the season and beyond, and go further and progress it in the leagues and the cups too.
100%.
That's the hour. The hour is up. It's gone quite quickly tonight. Again, as always, plenty of variety of talking points. That's what I love about the fans forum. It is a variety of different topics that we all bring to the table. Good to see you both back. Obviously, now it's a new year. We've got a couple more.
You feel surprised? I can't live on my own. Don't worry. I feel like that is this long. It'll carry on for a bit longer.
I think it's the first time that I've been on the show with you guys this year. I think, if I remember correctly,
definitely this year.
7 days. I've done a show almost every day. I lose track. We have got a show tomorrow as well. So Ben is back. If you never saw him yesterday, he's back with the Saturday Night Live tomorrow with Matt. And then Sunday, obviously, there's no Man United game, but we are going to watch one of our local clubs. So me and Andrew will be there supporting Stourbridge. We've got Anthony going down to Brighton to boo Man City. It's going to be great. And then obviously we've got a few.
Me to go. I know that's what people have preferred.
Yeah. And we've got a few fans going to watch FC United up the northern parts of the country. So, yeah, northern. Anything above there, we give northern to me.
It's Durham. I thought you were avoiding it because, you know, I loved them so much. But, yeah.
So, plenty of things to watch on our socials over the weekend, definitely. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Please share it. Hit the thumbs up. We really appreciate all the support. And we shall see you again soon. Thank you, guys.